to, if you're on a phone, to mute or unmute. As permitted by the governor's disaster declaration, as of January 8, 2021, the determination has been made that an in-person meeting is not practical or prudent for this board. To ensure that a transparency and open meeting is possible, the meeting materials were posted 1 week in advance. The recording of this meeting will be provided and linked to our website, and all votes taken will be by roll call. And with that, Aaron, I'll ask you to call the roll.
Thank you. Mayor Bennett,
Present.
Rita Athos,
Present.
Frank Beal, President Brawley, Commissioner Cox, Mayor Dart,
Here.
Jim Healy,
Present.
Mayor Noak,
Here.
President Reinbold,
Here.
Mayor Rodering,
Here.
Carolyn Schofield,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Sheehan,
Here.
Matt Walsh,
Here.
Diane Williams,
Present.
Leanne Redden,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and Dr. Mohammadian.
Here.
Thank you. And then I'll recognize Frank Beal. I think I see you on the line here. Yep.
welcome.
Great.
Thanks, Frank. We do have a quorum, and before you are the minutes of our previous meeting. Again, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes. Again, identify yourself on the person second.
Jim Healy, motion to approve.
Sheehan,
Sure.
second.
Moved and seconded. Aaron, call the roll.
Thank you. Mayor Bennett,
Aye.
Rita Athos,
Aye.
Frank Beal,
Yes.
President Brawley, Commissioner Cox, Mayor Dart.
Yes.
Thank you. Jim Healy,
Aye.
Mayor Noak,
Yes.
President Reinbold,
Yes.
Mayor Rodering,
Aye.
Carolyn Schofield,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sheehan,
Yes.
Matt Walsh,
Yes.
and Diane Williams.
As I was absent, I'll abstain.
Great,
The motion carries.
Yes.
Aaron, your director's report.
great. Thank you. So at the end of last month, the House wrapped up its Transportation and Appropriations Community Funding process, also known as earmarks. While the House has agreed to return to this process, the Senate has not yet come to an agreement on whether or not to bring these back. So, and they also have not submitted projects. And the submitted projects are not guaranteed for funding via the House project process just yet. We'll continue to keep a close eye on this process for how projects may impact the Transportation Improvement Program, more lovingly known as the TIP in our region. It's still a little bit unclear as to how the transportation bill reauthorization will take place, but the extension expires this September. We should hear something soon, as both committee leadership of the House and Senate and the administration have indicated that they'd like to see a draft bill by the end of this month. I know that many of you are aware, but on the Treasury Department on Monday released guidance on the upcoming distribution of $350 billion in American Rescue Plan aid to state and local governments. Eligible state, county, and metropolitan cities over 50,000 may now request their allocation of the state and local fiscal recovery funds through the Treasury Department's website. Governments under 50,000 residents or non-entitlement units of government should expect to receive this funding from the state of Illinois. And according to the Treasury, local governments will receive funds in 2 tranches, so 50% upfront beginning in May, and the balance would be delivered about 12 months later. The funds will be used to support public health expenditures, addressing economic impacts to workers and households, replace public sector revenue and investments for water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. So the final interim final rule for this aid has been posted on the Treasury's website, and they are looking for feedback. So we will also put a note about this feedback opportunity in our weekly email as well. I also wanted to share 3 new initiatives that we have in the works. And the goal really is to raise awareness and continued support for implementation of On to 2050. We are currently planning CMAP's first ever State of the Region event. It will be October 7th to coincide with the anniversary of the 2050 plan's approval and adoption. The goal of the virtual event will be to share progress on the plan, celebrate our successes, and move stakeholders toward our continued common regional vision that is 2050. As a way to recognize and celebrate the implementation of our partners' success and inspire others to take action, we will also be launching CMAP's first ever awards program. Categories will include a visionary, individual visionary award, as well as awards to recognize projects that support the plan's principles of inclusive growth, resiliency, and prioritized investment. Award recipients will be recognized at the State of the Region event this fall. We will open awards applications in the coming months. So if you have project ideas or people that you want us to sort of pick up the phone and call because you think they might have an inspiring project that we should recognize, please do let us know. We would be happy to encourage and rustle up some applications. And lastly, as part of this event, we are conducting our first ever public opinion poll to gauge regional views and readiness for action on a number of the plan's implementation objectives. So thinking about mobility, resiliency, and economic development across our region. We will be surveying residents across all 7 counties, and responses will be representative of the region. So a more formal public opinion poll. We'll be excited to share the news of this poll that we conduct at the State of the Region event. So please mark your calendars for October 7th for an exciting opportunity for us to talk about how we're progressing as a region. And we really hope that this becomes an annual event where we can take a measure of what we've accomplished and really think about what it is that we need to do and how we celebrate the successes we've had here across the region. Let's see, I think I'm missing a page.
Aaron, I'm sorry, are you done?
No, oh, yes, I am. I thought I was missing a page. I guess those are my short, brief remarks this morning.
Any questions or comments on Aaron's report update?
Just one question, Erin, is the event going to be virtual?
So we are debating that right now. I think at this point in time, we will probably be focused on a virtual event, but possibly with an opportunity, perhaps we've been discussing, should the board get together or an opportunity for a reception for the award recipients. So it requires a little bit of double logistics. So we're in the process of debating all of that right now. But if you have thoughts or ideas about a fall in person, I'd be interested to hear more about that.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Our associations or membership organizations that you are a part of meeting in person or planning for meeting in person in the fall?
ISACO is the State Association of Counties.
Yeah, I think for the most part, in talking to the COGS, it appears that may be a target date to begin the meeting in person. Some have done small committees, but we've been virtual since for over a year. But I think September is kind of a startup date. We'll see.
Yeah, so we'll continue to monitor, but I know that we're planning on targeting having staff back in the office on a rotating basis more formally in September as well. So thanks. That concludes.
Actually, in July, the National Association of Counties is having its annual meeting, and it's going to be live and in person in Maryland.
Good to know. Thank you, Jim.
Very good.
I have a quick question on the awards program. Is there an application that will be forthcoming?
There will be a brief application and it should be released in the coming weeks. We'll make sure the board gets notification of that as well.
Very good. Thank you.
And then I also would like the chair to recognize that Commissioner Cox has joined the meeting. Thank you.
Good morning and welcome. Aaron, next item is the proposed updates on the CMAP Board bylaws. Do you want to give an overview of that?
Yes, I will. And I was just told that that Mayor Brawley is also on the line as well.
Very good.
Yes, so in terms of the bylaws, included in your packet agenda item 5.0, this last year presented some unexpected situations from the pandemic to our move going on during the pandemic to hosting virtual meetings. So one of the things we wanted to do to be proactive and address some of the challenges that we saw was really look to how we can strengthen our bylaws and really bring to the bylaws more structure around some of these unexpected opportunities. So I'll just highlight a couple notes. This is for discussion this morning. We have had a conversation with the executive committee last month about the draft changes to our bylaws, but Amy really led this process, so I'll thank her for reaching out to a number of our peers across the country to get some best practices and understand where there were opportunities for us to bring improvements to our bylaws. So you'll see before you virtually a draft of the updated bylaws. And so, well, there were just some minor cleanups that we did in some instances, like including a more thorough description of the statutory functions of CMAP in Article 1. There were a couple things that I just wanted to highlight for you here. So, Article 3, Section 6 provides the option to conduct meetings virtually to the extent permitted by state law, recognizing that I think that there's a number of debates going on in Springfield as to the benefits and opportunities of having virtual meetings and the downsides too here. We'll continue to pay attention to that, but wanted to make sure that we're formally including that option as it's practical and legally allowed. Also, we had some discussions about offsite workshops, again, providing us this opportunity, but making sure that we're following the Open Meetings Act. For that, should we choose to do some offsite workshops where no actions are taken, or team building activities for the board? A couple other things that I'll note here. Article 4 creates some powers and duties for the executive committee itself. The section really provides limited authorities to the executive committee to allow business to continue and outlines the process for which the executive committee would do that. And then I'll note that Article 9, Section 1B increases the contract authority for the executive director not to exceed a cumulative total of $50,000. The current limit is $25,000 and it was set in 2006. So we took a look at sort of what made sense given the market conditions today. And then Article 9, Section 2 provides for emergency purchase authority for a board officer and or the executive director during a federal state emergency disaster declaration. While I'm hopeful that there aren't any more of those in this upcoming year, making sure that we have the authority should we need it again, especially as we think about some of the projects and how we want to continue to keep them moving. So those are some highlights, but wanted to present those to you for discussion today to see if there was input and feedback on some of the changes we're proposing, and then we would bring it back to you at your next board meeting in June.
Comments, questions regarding those items?
This is Carol, and I have actually a couple. First, where the Article 3, Section 13, and I apologize, I forgot to mention this to you, Erin, but it says first vice chair. I understand the change to the chair versus chairman, and I have no problem with that. But in it, it says first vice chair and second vice chair. And I think last time around, and I just say this because I wasn't part of the discussions that made the determination, but I am one of the vice chairs. I think they did away with that first vice chair and second vice chair and just made kind of vice chairs. So if you could clarify that, or the intent in moving forward, if that's going to be the continued approach, or if they're going to go back to the first and second. I don't have a preference. I just think it maybe conflicts with our current situation.
Yeah, that's a good note. I think the draft that we had been working on, or the final bylaws that we had been working off of, had said first vice chair and second vice chair. So if that had been the intent, was to do away with that, I have no problems with doing away with it and just having it 2 vice chairs.
And I don't have a preference either way, but maybe if you could just clarify, because I was not part of that discussion when they did that. I
Yes.
maybe have reasonings, but maybe the people that were involved with kind of taking that approach, you could discuss it with them and bring it forward next time as clarification.
Sure.
And then the second thing I had is I just wanted to comment on the state legislation and the remote meetings. I was kind of mulling this over again, and I do know that there's different purposes at the state level, or different legislation serves different purposes. And I know that we've been challenged by attendance in general because of that increased quorum mandate by the state in our legislation. So just wondering if, keeping an eye on that, maybe even having something like if 50% of our quorum was in person and the rest could be remote, or kind of thinking of maybe solutions for those that, meetings that require more of a supermajority attendance and quorum if there were maybe some different stipulations on the remote aspect of that. So allowing some flexibility for our board as we move forward, because who knows what the future will hold for it, you know, as far as attendance and being able to attend in person. So just maybe thinking, not necessarily for the bylaws, but just thinking, being proactive on that end. That's all I had. Thanks.
Yeah, no, thanks. I appreciate that too. And, you know, I think one of the things that we can be thoughtful about too, we'll take a look at what's circulating at the legislative levels as well. But, you know, when we're talking about sort of approving the plan or major things, you know, major approval processes, those are the opportunities I think that having the in-person discussions really can be helpful. But, you know, sometimes if it's perfunctory, recognizing that it's a lot of travel in our region to get everybody to the meeting can be a challenge. So we'll take that back and think about what we might be able to do moving forward.
Other comments?
I would just comment on, I think it's Article 4, which I think makes sense to me. It's a very practical approach to managing whether or not we have quorums and making sure that we get business done. So I think that's a good solution for that.
Yeah, again, thanks. Both of those were good comments, and we've been under the original statute about having a supermajority present all the time, and that's really, and we found out this last year how restrictive that really is, and whether or not that has to be changed, Aaron, at the state level, or whether the state, considering what's happened over the last year, considers some new legislation on open meetings, or but it's something we should be down there talking to them about, because if nobody talks, then nothing happens, and it really should be reviewed, I think, in general, for not only us, but many organizations that were restricted over this last year, but even more so for us because of our unusual requirement of having a supermajority present at all times.
No, thanks for that too. And it's top of mind for us as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. So if there are other comments in between, if you have a chance to take a look at it, please do reach out to me. We'll bring this back again for approval at your June meeting. With that, yep, that's it for me on that point.
Okay, on item 6 on the presentation, onto 2050 plan update, Laura.
Great, thank you. We can go ahead and head to the chart, which I think is the next slide. Excellent. So as all of you know, onto 2050, the long range plan was adopted in 2018. So as a reminder today, we are federally required to update certain elements of the long range plan every 4 years. So this means that there will be adoption or needed to be adoption by this board, as well as the MPO Policy Committee by October of 2022. So we have started this work of the 2050 update. The goal of this work is to meet federal requirements, update data and performance measurements to reflect any changes or current situations, respond to regionally significant project requests. So I just wanted to take a minute or two to talk about this work that started in order to meet our deadline of next year, which sounds like a long way away, but as we all know, all of the different pieces and parts add up and it ends up being faster than we expect. So this update will be accomplished by coordinating 9 interweaving projects that you see on the chart here. Luckily, our staff are experts in their field and project managers and program managers that have been working in this space for a long time. And so they're approaching each of these projects in order to be successful and to work with each of our partners in order to accomplish this goal. This work will take some coordination with several of our implementing partners and some of our committees. So as you can see here, it's made up of 9 projects. I'll just walk through them really fast. There's the travel model data development, so updating our travel model, our regional socioeconomic forecast, which will look at employment and population, system performance report, again, looking at our, and the performance targets and indicators, right? Looking at what's happening on our system, financial plan, which looks at the revenues that we expect over the course of the next 28 years, regionally significant projects, which are brought to us by our implementing partners, updating the TIP, then also doing transportation conformity analysis to look at air quality issues. And throughout all of this, there's public engagement that we want to do and is required. So that would be, again, working with our committees and some of our external partners and doing an actual formal public engagement process when we have the draft update plan. There are other pieces of this, again, technical appendices, again, bringing this all together so it makes sense in a report that are required for us to do this update. The other two projects that we have that are noted here that will impact but are not required, again, is the mobility recovery work. So as we go through looking at, again, what data or finances as revenue things change, we want to make sure that feeds into the rest of the update, as well as our work in a transportation equity framework and how that might work within the update as well. We will be talking to the MPO Policy Committee and the Transportation Committee members about their role in this update at our June meetings, but have already started conversations with IDOT and RTA as their information feeds into a lot of this data updates. We have approximately 10 months to get a draft of the update ready so that it can be put out to public comment, and we're confident we can meet this goal. We will continue to work with you and each of our partners as we finalize these different projects, but again, making sure that we're focusing on implementing the vision of Onto 2050 plan as we set out 4 years ago, and focusing on that work and also being a resource to our community partners in the meantime. Happy to take any questions about our approach.
Questions of Laura? Okay, moving on. Thanks, Laura. Under state and federal legislation, Gordon?
Hi, Mayor. The report basically speaks for itself. There's not a whole lot for me to talk about. The General Assembly is grinding through some 600 bills in 2 chambers that still need to get through committees and the respective and the opposite chambers. They got a lot of work ahead of them. It looks like they are talking about getting done on time. So, you know, that they're being very optimistic, and so am I. Redistricting is still a big issue that is under discussion before the General Assembly. A lot of discussion about that, how they're going to achieve that. But that's really about it. I anticipate having, you know, a more thorough report of some budget initiatives that will be taking place at the June meeting. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have, but there's nothing really new to report.
Gordon, again, I'll ask if do we continue to approach the state of Illinois about funding for this agency?
I always talk about that. That's our lead. When we have discussions with members of the General Assembly and their staff. So yeah, we talk about it all the time.
I mean, if we approached a member, House and or Senate, to, you know, to introduce a bill,
So
that may be the only way we have to go again, is to have it, you know, put into legislation.
correct. No, we have not talked to them about introducing a bill. We have talked about the restrictiveness of the funding that we currently receive from the department. But we haven't talked specifically about a bill introduction, but that's always a possibility.
Well, again, probably too late this session to do that, but you know, again, whether it's in the fall or next spring, Aaron, I'd like to see us be more active and again, push that that opportunity for us to present legislation and get a sponsor. I'm sure we would hopefully have many in the Chicagoland area anyway. And the bill would also include other MPOs throughout the state.
Right.
From their planning side, that we get serious about trying to, we're not really asking for a whole lot of money. I think the total, not just for us, but for the entire state, was only about $5.5, maybe $6 million. It wasn't a whole lot of money, but you know, until we get proactive on that and start pushing it, and whether we have to do it year after year after year, at least they know it's on the table and we're not going away.
Yep, we hear you, Chairman. We will continue to figure out how we plot a strategy to do that. I think one of the challenges this past year was just folks weren't meeting in person, so flagging people down and getting the right people in order was a challenge.
No, I get that, but also how are we doing on our collection, on our dues from the local governments?
I think we are right in line. I see Angela's on the phone with where we expected to be. Angela, do you have that?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't have the physical number, but we are trending very well. So if you can allow, I can circulate the numbers through to Aaron, to the board at the conclusion of the meeting. But I think we're trending very high.
All right, good, because as we've done in the past, if you could send who has not out to the COGS so they can follow up with their members directly about you know, their contribution to the agency. So
Absolutely. We'll get that information through Aaron to the board today.
Thank you, Angela. I think the other thing too that I'll mention, Mayor Bennett, is that, you know, the work that we've been doing on the task forces related to economic recovery and workforce initiatives across the state presents us with, I think, a unique opportunity to really highlight how we're able to bring unique partners together across the region towards a common goal. And so as we think about some of these funds that are going to be released this year and next year, you know, one of the things I think we're well positioned to do is to present them with some of the benefits that we've been able to do in terms of identifying priorities and then pushing projects forward as a regional agency here. So that too is another avenue. It's not the sustained funding that I know that you would like and we would like for this organization, but it is something too that's been, I think, real top of mind for us, that you'll see some action here from us on in the near future.
that's good. And again, listing what we have done and accomplished outside of transportation, because again, that's seems to be, you know, the comments back from Springfield where your transportation agency. No, we've, especially this last year, done so many things in working with so many partners as to, you know, the recovery of COVID. We could have a laundry list of accomplishments and how going forward, it's important that, you know, this agency exists also for the purpose of planning, not just transportation. So we'll get back down there again, Gordon. All right, anything other comments, Gordon? Legislation, federal, state? All right, very good. Moving on to other business. Public comment?
Oh,
Mayor
Gordon, I
Darch,
think
you
we
wanna
do
make
have-
something?
yes, in other business, I think.
Go ahead.
As discussed at our Metro Mayor's Caucus meeting the other day, I had forwarded some information to Aaron about a matter currently before the Surface Transportation Board in DC. And this is related to two bids, Canadian Pacific and Canadian National, trying to merge with the Kansas City Southern. All three of those are Class 1 railroads, and CN and CP travel through and around Chicagoland. So since we are sitting in the major rail hub of the country and are touched by 6 of those 7 Class 1s, this is a significant merger, whatever way it turns out. And if one were to look at the docket and the dockets for both of those cases in front of STB right now, what was railroads and shippers are weighing in, making their comments, but communities and regional planning organizations, MPOs such as ours, have not yet been weighing in. So the ask the other day at Metro Mayors and with some of the COGS was to have folks at least sending a letter or a resolution to the Surface Transportation Board in that, particularly the CN docket, asking them to look at the potential impacts for our region on such a merger. And so that the STB is considering that as it's ruling on a voting trust for CN and maybe potentially the actual merger. So some of the questions are how it would impact Metra, how will it impact Amtrak, how will it impact increasing traffic or congestion on the rail lines or in the communities of the Chicagoland region, not just the EJ&E CN route out for some of us in the West and South, but literally CN is throughout the Chicago region. So Aaron has sort of a draft, or I sent to her, I'm sorry, a draft resolution or a draft letter, and was hoping that our board, I know without having seen all of the information, might be willing to at least send a letter to the STB asking those questions, not taking a side, on any of the mergers, but really saying this is significant to our region and we need a hard look at these items before any decision is made. And the second part, and Jerry, we didn't really talk about this the other day, but CMAP is probably the right place to bring this up. Given our role in transportation in the region and that the MPO is part of this, or we're part of it, is it even more important that we actually are prepared to do our own analysis of the impact of something of this magnitude on our region and submit those more elaborate comments at some point if this goes on for another year and a half, if they're actually going to contemplate fully the merger. And whether that means if we don't have in-house staff able to do that, should the MPO consider that? I know railroads are part of the MPO, at least sitting there, but it's significant. And with all the planning work and transportation work that we do, in a way, it seems kind of incumbent on us to understand something like this that has impact. There are only 7 Class 1 railroads in the country. So a merger of 2 of them is a significant event and has impact for not just the nation, but particularly because Chicago is one of 4 freight trains every day that's traveling in the US coming through or touching Chicagoland. So I'll stop there and see what.
I would like to enthusiastically endorse Mayor Darch's comments. I think it's really important that CMAP and the MPO investigate this and its consequences for our region in terms of traffic, in terms of our status as a freight hub, in terms of air pollution, in terms of impact on communities. It's an important event, and no one is better suited to evaluate it than CMAP and the MPO.
I agree.
Frank, I agree. In fact, I mentioned to Mayor Darch at our caucus meeting that this is right up our wheelhouse. I mean, it's a discussion that took place years ago with the CN, extensive discussions that came through our board because of the impact. And those impacts are also financial, both positive, negative and positive. And I think that's the analysis that should be part of this. Does it add to the region or not economically? On the other side of the chart, what are the potential negatives and future costs involved in such a merger? So yeah, I think it's right in our wheelhouse, and we'd be more than happy, I think, to support what you're asking for as a resolution and to take a leadership role in it.
Well, at this time, we don't have an actionable item on the thing. I think that the executive director and chair could easily, as an agency, as part of the routine business, send a letter with questions. Doesn't require a board resolution at this time. We need a new actionable item that we would be reviewed before that could be done. But I'd agree that should we look at it, but I also want to make sure that the tone here is all the negatives. We also should consider any of the potential positives if we're being fair about a review. So just so we don't go into it biased from the beginning.
Mayor, I think I just said that there's 2 sides of a chart here, and they should be looked at. Yes.
This is Jim Healy, Mayor Darch. I support you 100%.
Jim.
Well, this is Koros Mohammedian. I also totally support the idea that we actually just need to look into that. But on second part of what Mayor Darch mentioned about doing our own analysis, I want to actually just comment on that. I have developed actually freight models, including rail freight model for the region, for the entire state and entire country. It's very hard for us to obtain the information from rail operators, and we have to rely on national level information to do the analysis. When we're talking about 7, the Class 1 railroad companies, and we don't have detailed information from them, I cannot actually do the analysis as a university faculty on those. I'm sure that CMAP will have difficulty actually doing the analysis. And so as part of that, maybe we can actually ask more information that gives us the opportunity to do the analysis in-house. Otherwise, we have to rely on national, freight movement data, which is not going to be giving us specific information about each one of those operators. And that means that the impacts of the merger is not going to be clear to us. Just a comment.
Oh. I would just add, I think that's a really good point. It is very controlled data, I'd say, at the STB. So that maybe that's part of the future ask when we get there to see if there's a way to free up or give more access to that data to regional groups and not just at the national level. But I think in the short term, to everybody's point, I think if we can at least do a letter asking the questions and get that in now, because this is sort of on a sensitive time frame that's not specific, but CN's asking for some quick action. So I think just so that the STB sees that we are interested, we have the questions, and this is serious, and the region's taking it seriously. I would hope we could just at least do that letter.
Sure. To advance the discussion, now entertain a motion that CMAP, in fact, does send a letter regarding the issue. And I will recognize Mayor Darch as one making the motion. Is there a second?
Healy,
Second, Richardson
seconded.
Park.
Again, further discussion. And again, we're involved with the CREATE program, and I'm sure that the interest of that group, quasi group, is important, again, for their input or certainly for their involvement in the impacts, regional impacts of this potential merger. So I'm sure that will bring in some additional people and certainly additional resources to be involved in some type of analysis. Other questions or comments?
Mayor Bennett, this is Rick Grimble. We're going to, hey, Jerry, we're going to present this information at our next COG meeting on the 20th and encourage our membership to take a look at it, and if they deem appropriate to weigh in along with Mayor Darch's recommendation or in line with that. So just an FYI, that's our approach.
Thanks, Rick. Any again, further comments, questions? Want to read the roll call?
Will. Mayor Bennett?
Aye.
Rita Athos?
Aye.
Frank Beal?
Aye.
President Brawley?
Aye.
Commissioner Cox?
Aye.
Thank you. Mayor Darch?
Aye.
Jim Healy?
Healy, aye.
Mayor Note? Mayor Note? President Reinbold?
Yes.
Mayor Rodering?
Aye.
Carolyn Schofield?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sheehan?
Yes.
Matt Walsh?
Yes.
Diane Williams?
Yes.
Leanne Red, oh, sorry. Let me stop.
Motion carries.
Motion carried. Right, so we'll prepare a letter, from me to the STB on some of the concerns that we've had in the past, recognizing that there's data challenges and it's necessary for us to be able to analyze the impacts of some of the freight movements and good movements across our region. And the impacts we've seen in the past have been challenges and all of that sort of stuff. I'll try and capture the conversation here that we had today.
Very good.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, could as members, could we be copied on that letter, please? I'd like to include that in.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
Very good. Thank you.
This has been an abbreviated meeting for all of us, which is great. I can't emphasize enough about next month's meeting. It's the last of the fiscal year for us. We have a couple of months off during the summer, and we have some important business that we must have our a quorum for us to move forward with that action. So please, everyone, make sure you sign on for next month's meeting. Whether it's the last virtual, I don't know that either, but certainly an opportunity to get our business done before summer, because we will be off again in July and August and start back up in September. So Aaron, do you have anything else or any comments, further comments? The meeting's up. Did I open the meeting to the public?
Why don't we do that? Officially open the meeting to the public.
The meeting's open to the public. No comments or questions. Again, we will see everyone next month for our next meeting. And with that in mind, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, Darch.
Moved and seconded. I guess we have to do this by roll call too, huh? Aaron, call the roll.
Officially, Mayor Bennett,
Aye.
Rita Athos,
Aye.
Frank Beal,
Aye.
President Brawley,
Aye.
Commissioner Cox,
Aye.
Mayor Darch,
Aye.
Jim Healy,
Aye.
Mayor Noak,
Aye.
President Reinbold,
Aye.
Mayor Rotering,
Aye.
Carolyn Schofield,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sheehan,
Yes.
Matt Walsh,
Yes.
and Diane Williams.
Yes.
The
Motion
motion carries
carries.
again. Those for the executive committee, sign on to go to meeting right after this. And enjoy the rest of the day. We'll see you guys next month. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.